Hi, this is Maria Olson. You may know me from Trophy Heads or Starry Eyes and maybe Paranormal Activity 3. And I want to welcome you to Anthony T's Horror Show because it's an awesome show.
Hi, my name is Jessica Cameron, and you're listening to Anthony T's Horror Show.
Hey, fellow horror fans. This is Troy Escamilla, the director of Party Night and Mrs. Claus, and you are listening to Anthony T's Horror Show. Enjoy.
Welcome to another edition of Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm Anthony T. In this edition, I will be having a lot of convention news as I'll be talking about the first wave of guests for both TerrorCon and CT Horrorfest. Then I'll have my interview with Erica Looker, actress and producer of the short films One Last Kill and The Box, which is released through It Came From the 508 Productions. And also I will be talking about the first teaser trailer for the upcoming Saw film, Spiral, from the Book of Saw, as I do have some thoughts on that. As you can see, there's pretty much no format to this show, and it's because of all this convention news that pretty much is going to take up 2 segments. Now, should I start with the convention news that makes me excited? Or should I get to the point and start with the convention news that really has been pissing me off? Let's start with the good news. Seriously. Because I really would like to start with the good news before I start really going off on a long-winded rant. As, quite frankly, one of these cons, I am not happy with the guest list. I'm going to be downright with you people. I am not happy with the guest list. And yes, I can reveal it's TerrorCon. Because personally, I am so uninspired as that convention, first wave of guests, lacks no excitement at all. But I'll save that for next segment, as I'm going to talk about a convention that has excitement. And this is happening in September, right after TerrorCon. Yes, I'm talking about CT Horrorfest. And I have to say, so far the lineup really looks very good. I'm very hyped up about this convention than the convention where I'm from in the great state of Rhode Island. And quite frankly, it's very sad that CT Horrorfest at this stage has a way better lineup than TerrorCon. But I will go into TerrorCon's lineup next segment, because I want to focus on the positives convention. And that is CT Horrorfest. They really have a very good lineup so far. For a first wave, I have to admit, it's something that really excites me. Unlike TerrorCon, where I am not excited for this convention, and have gone into pretty much panic mode, because, well, I want a local horror convention yearly in Rhode Island, and the people at TerrorCon right now have not put any effort into this convention. I'll explain more next segment. But the people over at CT Horrorfest so far have put a lot of really good effort into putting on a really good show, which takes place September in Nantucket, Connecticut, at the Nantucket Event Center, September 12th to be exact. let me run down the guest list so far. You have Quinn Lord, who was supposed to be at CT Horrorfest last year, but canceled. It's nice that they managed to reschedule him for this convention, as Trick or Treat is a really great film. If you have not seen that film, you really need to see Trick or Treat. It is probably one of the greatest horror anthology horror films ever made. Then you got C.J. Graham from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Sorry, almost said 7. That's the one where Kane Hodder first appeared, but I'm talking about Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And C.J. Graham is going to be there. They also have Michael Berryman from the original The Hills Have Eyes that's going to be there. He was originally supposed to be at Wicked Weekend. Before that December date got canceled. Thankfully, CT Horrorfest are smart enough to bring him to their upcoming convention. As that's a guess I was looking forward to during the first Wicked Weekend date, which got postponed and eventually canceled in December. As I'm not going to go into Wicked Weekend because it's just going to be a long-winded rant. I don't have time this episode because I have enough problems with TerrorCon to deal with. So you will not hear my Wicked Weekend rant. Then they announced the Blair Witch Project reunion, which was also supposed to take place at that December Wicked Weekend show. As they've announced that Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams will be at CT Horrorfest. And yes, Michael Williams was at CT Horrorfest a couple years ago, but at least there's a purpose to bringing him in, because this is a Blair Witch Project reunion. The reason I'm explaining this now, because next segment, you can know where I'm going with TerrorCon and their lovely Rolodex of guests. Next segment. But I am so excited for the Blair Witch Project reunion. I literally cannot wait to go down there to Nantucket, Connecticut. Because the Blair Witch Project was one of those films that really defined 90s horror. As it's one of those films where it's either you love it or hate it. But quite frankly, I really loved the Blair Witch Project. I remember seeing this film in the theaters, loving it. Also, it had a great marketing campaign, which really made the film what it is today. And it brought the found footage genre into the mainstream, as without the Blair Witch Project, you wouldn't be seeing found footage films like Paranormal Activity, Record, Quarantine, and countless number of found footage films. So, the Blair Witch Project is a landmark horror film. I don't care if I get hate for that. It is, because it really brought a new subgenre to the horror genre. And I can't wait to meet them in September, because I'm a really huge fan of the film, and it was something I really wanted to do in December for the Wicked Weekend show, but of course it got postponed, then canceled, so I cannot wait for CT Horrorfest this year, as this has a way better lineup than TerrorCon, which I will get to when I come back. Every day there's a family struggling with hospital bills to care for their sick child who is fighting an illness. There's a woman who is fighting breast cancer and is having trouble making ends meet while paying for their treatment. And there are burn victims that are going through treatments to heal their deep wounds. There is a charity in the horror community that helps these people. Scares That Care is an organization that helps families deal with the bills for their child. They help women get the treatment they need to fight breast cancer, and they help people who are dealing with severe burns get the help they need to heal. Scares That Care is a 100% volunteer organization and 501c3 nonprofit charity that is dedicated to helping these people in fighting real monsters. To find out more information or to donate to Scares That Care, you can go to www.scaresthatcare.org. Every donation helps Scares That Care fight real monsters. Besides Anthony T's Horror Show, you can also listen to these other fine podcasts on the Doc Discussions Network. Doc Discussions, hosted by Philip Perrone and Michael Darwin. You Know Nothing, Jon Snow, a Game of Thrones podcast. Bullets, Brothels, and Bots, a Westworld podcast. Halloween Boutique, Psychotronic Reviews, and Searching for American Gods. You can find Doc Discussions on the web at www.docdiscussions.com, and Doc Discussions is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. The following commentary contains views that are not representative of the Doc Discussions Network, meaning they're the views of mine and mine only. Now, welcome back. Now, this is Women in Horror Month, and I was thinking of talking about something related to Women in Horror Month, but I cannot do that, apparently, because now I have to talk about a convention that is happening in June, which I think is starting to get way out of control with their guest announcements, because most of them are repeat guest announcements. Whether it's TerrorCon 2014, TerrorCon 2017, or Rhode Island Comic Con. Right now, the guest announcements are horrible. I'm going to put it out and say it clearly. I think the first guest announcements for TerrorCon have been horrible, because most of the guests announced already have appeared in Rhode Island. You had 3 of them appear at TerrorCon 2017. You have 1 of them that appeared at TerrorCon 2014. And you have a guest that appeared at Rhode Island Comic Con 2018. What the hell is going on with this convention? I don't get it. I am really looking forward to TerrorCon, but this first wave of guest announcements has me not interested in this convention at all. And I don't mean to speak this in a really bad way, but if this is going to be what this convention turns out to be, where Ultra Reality Entertainment breaks out their Rolodex of past guests they've had at various conventions, then this is not going to be a good convention at all, because who wants to see a bunch of repeat guests when there's a whole lot of horror guests they can get? But right now, only 2 of them have not come to the Rhode Island area. And that's really a cause of major concern about the upcoming June convention. And the worst part about it is, none of these guests you can consider a headliner. That's right, after 6-7 guest announcements and 1 cancellation, you have no headliner yet. And this convention is happening June 13th and 14th. There are a lot of horror names that you can get for this convention. You can bring a Tom Atkinson, you can bring PJ Souls, you can bring Barbara Crampton, Jeffrey Combs, and the list goes on and on and on. But right now, this convention feels like a convention that's being booked on a Rolodex. That's right, one of those Rolodexes where you have all your contacts and, oh, let me see, oh, this guy's done a horror, oh, I'll take him. That's fine. Oh, he's been on one of my shows too. I'll bring him in too. Conventions don't work that way. You do not book guests on your Rolodex. And this is what I feel like TerraCon so far has been booked like. A convention where the convention promoters have been bringing guests in that have appeared for them before. And that's not how you get a convention to succeed, because you have too many repeat guests. And this is starting to become a problem here early on, which is a very troubling sign for this convention and its success. Because quite frankly, right now, it's a convention I'm not excited for. I've seen these people before in the Rhode Island area, with the exception of two. I'll run down the lineup in a bit to tell you the two I haven't seen in the area before. But the majority of this lineup so far has been in the Rhode Island area at one time or another, and that is just downright mind-boggling. I know ScareCon brings in maybe 3 or 4 repeat guests, but when you have 5 out of 7 repeat guests who have appeared at either a TerraCon or a Rhode Island Comic-Con, I don't get what they do. I really don't. It seems like it's a troubling sign. Seriously, it is a troubling sign that this convention is just going to bring in all the people they know and not think outside the box. Conventions succeed when convention promoters put in the effort. Right now, alternate reality entertainment has not been putting in the effort in making this convention a must-go-to convention. And quite frankly, this cannot come at a really worse time. Seriously, alternate reality entertainment. You hardly have any competition in the horror con scene in New England, quite frankly. Wicked Weekend was canceled. ScareCon New England hasn't released dates yet, and I'm doubting there will be a ScareCon New England this year, coupled with the fact that Rock and Shock closed its doors last month. The only other horror convention in the New England area you have left is CT Horrorfest, and that is a one-day convention. Sure, it does well, but it's only a one-day convention. That doesn't scream like a premier horror convention. Even though I love CT Horrorfest, I'll admit it, I think they put on a great show year in, year out. But it feels like more of a mom and pop horror convention when TerraCon is supposed to be a big horror convention, because it's run by the same people that run Rhode Island Comic Con, which is one of the bigger shows in the New England area, period. It really disgusts me that TerraCon so far has not think outside the box. Instead, they're playing it very safe and very pedestrian, and that usually never works. And it's also bringing guests from past conventions and past Rhode Island Comic Cons as well. It cannot happen like this. Seriously, guys, you have a chance to become the horror convention in the New England area. There's only one horror convention left that is running this year. You guys can be the big horror convention in the New England area. But from the guest list I've seen so far, you guys don't give a damn about this convention. And I'm going to say it bluntly, because I want this convention to succeed badly, because it would be great to have a horror convention in my home state. And I don't want to spend time doing this, but I'm getting sick and I'm getting tired of this lazy convention booking that Ultra Reality Entertainment has done so far with TerrorCon. And quite frankly, this show really needs to succeed for the stability of the New England horror scene. And you guys don't seem to give a care. Here's the guest list so far. I'll start with the new guests that you're bringing in. You're bringing in Alex Vincent from the Child's Play series. And you're bringing Bob Elmore from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And that's it when it comes to new guests. I know you tried to bring in John Carroll Lynch from American Horror Story, but unfortunately he canceled. But that should tell you maybe you should go look for another guest that hasn't come to the Rhode Island area. Now, this is the rest of the guest lists. You had John Kazar. He was at TerrorCon 2017. You have Karosha Ona Carroll. If I pronounced the name wrong, I apologize. But she's also a paranormal guest, too. How is she a celebrity? I don't get it. If somebody can tell me, please. Because I don't feel like she's a celebrity. She's more of a paranormal guest. She was at TerrorCon 2014. You have R.A. Maloff from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. He was at TerrorCon 2017. You have Tyler Main, who was also at TerrorCon 2017. And you had Zach Gallen, who was at Rhode Island Comic Con 2018. Quite frankly, you guys don't know how to come up with guests, because this lineup right now looks like you're booking your show on your Rolodex of contacts you have from previous shows. And it's really frightening, because I always have a rule here, and it is, if you have too many repeat guests, it's not good for your convention. It's okay to have 2, 3, maybe 4 guests, but if you're, right now, if we include Rhode Island Comic Con into this, you have 5 repeat guests, and you're probably going to bring more repeat guests, as nothing right now has suggested to me that you guys are going to bring in some names that would attract people, some names that you would consider a headliner, because out of these 7, I would not consider neither of these guests headlining guests. And it's really troublesome, seriously, because now I have to take time out of my program to talk about this convention, because I'm afraid this convention is going to go off the rails and have an abundant number of repeat guests, because we all know you're going to bring in some Walking Dead guests, and 1 or 2 of them will be a past Rhode Island Comic Con or past TerrorCon guest. I just know it. So, you cannot run a convention like this. Seriously. You need to attract people in the area and elsewhere, and you guys are not doing it. You want to know how much effort they've put into Rhode Island Comic Con 2020 so far? Let me run you some of the guests at that convention and show you how much more they care about Rhode Island Comic Con 2020 compared to TerrorCon 2020. Some of the big guests announced so far are Kyle Weathers from The Mandalorian, Chandler Riggs from The Walking Dead. He could have been a good guest to bring in for TerrorCon. You have Glenn Kane Jacobs. He would have been a good guest to bring for TerrorCon. You have Emily Swallows from The Mandalorian. Plus, she's been on Supernatural as well. She would have been a good guest to bring on to the TerrorCon lineup. But instead, you guys are just filling it up with people who cannot headline a convention. And I don't want to take time out of this show to tell you this, but you are paying way too much attention to Rhode Island Comic Con and making that the best show possible while not putting in any effort into TerrorCon 2020. I'm telling you guys, the convention landscape in New England has changed. with Rock and Shock gone and Scarecon New England's future in doubt, it's a very good time to actually take over the New England Horror Con scene. And you guys, right now, don't seem to care. And I will continue to point this out on my podcast until you bring in some good names. Bring in Tobin Bell. Bring in Nev Campbell. Bring in Bruce Campbell. Bring in somebody who has not been in the Rhode Island area. Please, I'm begging you, for the success of this convention, you need to bring in names that have not been in the Rhode Island area. It would be great to bring in some new names for the first time into Rhode Island. Bring in some Nightmare on Elm Street guests, with the exception of Robert Englund and Lisa Wilcox, as they've already been here to the area. Bring in some Friday the 13th guests, except Kane Hodder, because, well, he's at Area Horror Convention, pretty much. And he's already been at a TerrorCon, so bring in a Halloween guest. Bring in Nick Castle. Bring in James Jude Courtney. Halloween's a big thing right now, considering the next Halloween film, Halloween Kills, comes in theaters October 16th. It would be great to have some sort of a Halloween reunion. Bring in Danielle Harris, if I haven't mentioned her already. It is sad that the Rhode Island Comic-Con horror-related guest lists are better than what's been announced so far for TerrorCon 2020. It should be the other way around. And Alternate Reality Entertainment, I'm begging you, you guys need to put on a good show here. You need to bring people in. You need to take a chance or two. Bring in a headliner or two. Bring in someone like a Tobin Bell. But don't do this pedestrian stuff where you're just going to bring in people who've appeared for you at previous shows for your company. Because, quite frankly, the reason why we have TerrorCon every 3 years is because every time Altered Reality Entertainment runs a TerrorCon, it does not feel like a big deal. Sure, I have a good time at the conventions, but the lineups have not felt like a big deal. And that's why this convention never seems to become a yearly convention. And they really need to make this a yearly convention. They need to take a chance or two. You are in the Rhode Island Convention Center, not the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. You are in the Rhode Island Convention Center. You need to put a better lineup than the one you guys have right now. Because right now, out of the 3 years that I've been going to TerrorCon, so far, this does not look like a good lineup. And they really need a good lineup here if they really want to take advantage of the horror scene here in the New England area. Because it's up for grabs. Because Rock and Shock's gone. Who's going to take it? And with Altered Reality Entertainment and their successful Rhode Island Comic-Cons, these guys can make a dent in the horror scene. But to me right now, it seems like they don't want to do that. They just want to run a pedestrian type of show. And that, quite frankly, is sad. Guys at Alternate Reality Entertainment, I'm just trying to help you here as a con goer. And my experiences are that repeat guests aren't going to draw like you think they are. Because people will either not show up, or they'll just go, maybe buy some stuff from the vendors, that's it. Because they're not spending the money on the guests. If they don't spend money on the guests, then the convention's a failure. And with all these repeat guests, right now, I can't spend a single dime on any of these guests. That might change once more guests are announced. But at this moment, I'm telling you right now, I am not excited for TerraCon 2020. Will I be there? Yes, because I want to support my local convention. But that's all you're going to draw. You're not going to draw people from other areas with this lineup, because none of these guests scream headliner. And that's the problem you guys run into, because you won't get people coming from out of state, plus you won't get people who've already gone to the previous TerraCons and met them before. I really hope this is a change for the better for this convention. But these 7 guest announcements so far have not really brought any level of excitement. And the one thing you need to do right out of the gate is bring some excitement so you keep people interested. And I don't think this lineup is exciting enough so far. Just my opinion. Altered Reality Entertainment. Just my opinion.
Hey guys, this is Steve and Christina. I'm the founder, owner, creator, and host of Super Retro Throwback Reviews. Are you looking for the best movie reviews, music reviews, video game reviews, and Comic-Con coverage all around? Well then look no further. Definitely check out Super Retro Throwback Reviews on YouTube and our new audio podcast, the new and improved Super Retro Throwback Reviews audio files version 2.0 on the following media distributors: Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.
Class is over, John. Time for something new and improved.
Welcome back. My guest this episode is actress, producer, and makeup artist Erica Looker. She's known for films from the Massachusetts production company. It came from the 508 Productions. She is here to chat about One Last Kill and The Box, in which she stars in. How are you doing today, Erica?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very good. What made you want to get into the horror business?
So, I've always loved horror movies. Like, one of the first movies I ever remember watching, like, as a kid was The Shining, and I just am obsessed with it. As an adult, even as a kid, I was obsessed with it. So it just kind of got me into the horror genre in general. And then from there, it was just kind of a storm of absorbing every horror movie I could watch.
Now, since this is Women in Horror Month, who are some of your favorite women in horror?
So, I mean, obviously, we're going to go with the OG, Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, obviously. Love her. But then, like, from what I can remember, I mean, like, watching Scream. Like, Scream is in my top movies. As corny as they are, I just love them so much, and I love Neve Campbell. And she was just, like, one of my faves. And, like, I love the Soska sisters and everything they do. So, I mean, just women in horror in general, I just am such a big supporter of them, no matter what, because they're always doing, like, cool shit.
Now, how did you become involved with director James Lamont and It Came from the 508 Productions?
So, one day, James posted a status on Facebook that was like, hey, who wants to make a horror movie? And of course, I saw that and immediately messaged him, and I'm like, hi, hello, yes, I would love to be in a horror movie. What do you need? I can do makeup. I can try acting. I just wanted to be involved in, like, any way, shape, or form. So I was like, let's just do this. Let's figure it out.
Now, you also have a writing credit for One Last Kill. Tell me about the film.
So, One Last Kill, I mean, without, like, really spoiling it, it's kind of like a slasher with, like, a big twist. Like, you don't see what's really coming at first unless you're, like, super paying attention, but it's dark. It's got, like, some really cool elements to it. I don't know, it's hard to describe it without kind of spoiling it, I guess.
Tell me about your character in the film.
So, Piper is, kind of on a revenge trip, if you will. And she's sneaky and just trying to play this serial killer the best to her ability to get what she really needs. from the situation.
Now, how did her character become sort of a serial killer?
Well, I mean, Hyper herself isn't a serial killer. She's dealing with the serial killer, Carl Stefano. And I think her anger and, you know, the underlying feeling of revenge is what really shapes her in the long run.
What was the shooting schedule like for this film?
So we were shooting pretty much every weekend, and we would start early and end as soon as the lighting was bad. Like, we were traveling a little bit, like scouting locations at the same time of shooting. So it was our first go for all of us. It was our first, go at all of this kind of horror movie and even film stuff from the beginning. So we were kind of just feeling everything out and doing everything like as it came. So even though we did have a schedule, we were kind of like all over the place trying to get things perfect. And it was really, really fun too. So it was a lot of hard work, but we're having fun while we were doing it because it was just all of us trying to figure it out.
Now, what were some of the challenges did you face while shooting the film, considering this was your first film?
Well, a lot of us, I would say all of us, have never acted before, directed, done camera work. So we're all trying to like come into our own with it. So with that came the challenge of trying to get things perfect, in a sense, where we wanted everything to look good and sound good. So it ended up, we had a lot of takes of stuff because we had to move around because, as you know, like a lot of the movie is set kind of like midday, like either driving or in the woods. So we're trying to figure out like lighting and timing and everything to get everything to look, cohesive and keep the continuity going.
Now, besides the challenges you faced in the film, what was an average day on the set like?
Well, it was mostly us in the woods. A lot of it was we would get there pretty early to like set up and do makeup. So it was a lot of walking, to say the least. I think we all, got a little bit of hiking experience in there, walking through the woods. So a lot of it was, getting stuff ready to shoot in the locations that we were at and trying to not be like crazy noisy, even though there were some scenes where it was like a little bit wild.
Now, one of the scenes that I liked in the film was the scene where you were walking with the film's lead character and Dan Bouchard yelling and screaming his lines. How hard was it to keep a straight face while he was yelling and screaming?
So that's also probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. And keeping a straight face through that was difficult only because, like, I'm friends with Dan. And him yelling and being, like, wild, like, trying to keep a stone-cold look and stay in character was a little bit difficult only because he was doing such a good job. I was like, damn, like, this is great, but also I kind of want to laugh because it's Dan. Like, he did such a good job that I was kind of, like, I wanted to laugh about it because I was like, this is so fucking good, it's crazy. Like, I don't know. It was pretty hard to keep a straight face because I was just getting so excited about it because I knew it was going to be, like, a lot of people's favorite scene in the movie. Now,
was that a difficult scene to shoot?
Besides trying to keep a straight face, it wasn't, only because we're all such good friends and, we're all like super comfortable with each other. So we can kind of like keep that like temperament going on. But I mean, it was hard only because like Dan was, really bringing it to life. So I just wanted to like be excited about it when I was like, no, I have to keep a straight face and deliver my lines and not be like, yes, Dan, you're doing such a good job.
You really have thought that Dan was actually a professional actor with the way he did his performance in that film.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's incredible. He just he pulls these characters like out of nowhere, and it's so good, and it just makes me want to be a better actress, because I'm like, if I'm working on the side of him, I gotta be just as good as him, because he's stealing the show.
Yeah, he pretty much steals the show in that film.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, speaking of Dan, you also got to work with him again on your latest short film, The Box, which is available on the It Came From the 508 Productions website. Tell everyone about that film.
So, it's about an estranged married couple who lost their daughter, and they're just trying to come to grips with everything while also dealing with a lot of weird shit that's happening in their house. And that's to say without, like, spoiling anything.
Tell me about your character, Amelia, in The Box.
So, Amelia is just, I feel like she has a lot of emotions about everything. You know, she's dealing with her daughter missing and the struggles that come with that, and trying to keep her mind off it, even though it's taking over literally everything in her life, which, I mean, it would. And then on top of, you know, all the other stuff that's going on, I feel like she's trying to keep it together while also slowly losing her mind.
Now, it seemed like you and Dan really put some serious effort into your performances in this film. Was that originally intended to be?
Yeah, I mean, you know, before we even started shooting, we were having rehearsals and production meetings and trying to figure out the way we wanted to portray these characters. And, you know, Dan and I, you know, had the same idea of, like, both our characters being really angry and upset and just not knowing how to process emotions and kind of taking it out on the other person. And, I mean, Dan and I work really well together, so we kind of really had like a little mind meld of how everything should work, and I think it came together pretty well.
Now, was there rehearsals for One Last Kill, or was The Box the first time you had rehearsals?
So with One Last Kill, we had readings at my old apartment, and we were trying to act out this whole movie in a small living room and really trying to get it to come together. Whereas, you know, with The Box, we did have the opportunity to actually go to the location like prior, because we already had it. You know, it was our friend's house, so we were able to like go there and really like absorb everything. Whereas with One Last Kill, we didn't really have that because of where we were filming. We had to kind of use our imaginations with One Last Kill, whereas with The Box, we had it right in front of us. So it did, you know, it made it a little easier with The Box to be able to have that type of thing.
Now, what was filming like for The Box? Because it really looks more professional than One Last Kill.
Well, with The Box, it was the same thing. We would start super early with makeup and kind of, you know, we would know exactly what we were shooting that day, so we would be a little bit more prepared for it. And because, you know, this was our second go, we were a little bit more comfortable with, you know, filming a little bit longer, starting a little bit earlier, and kind of getting everything together a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, everything worked a little bit easier because we, you know, already had an idea of what we needed to do to make it work, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And what was it like portraying a character who has gone through a traumatic event in her life?
So with this particular character, like, I mean, it was kind of hard for me at first, only because I don't have kids. I couldn't imagine, like, that type of trauma of, like your kid going missing and, you know, having those type of emotions. So I guess what I needed to do was, you know, think of how I would react in that type of situation to make it more of an organic type of performance instead of, you know, like, cheesy. I guess I didn't want to, you know, overdo it, but I wanted to, kind of bring forth the emotions of, like, sadness and anger and doom and all the things you would feel going through something like that.
I also thought when seeing this film that the basement really had a creepy vibe to it. First, was that shot in the same place you shot the film? And
yes. Yeah, so our friend's house that we were shooting this at, he was actually doing a lot of construction in the basement, so it really worked out for us. And he was like, yeah, we're going to redo this, so if you guys need to pour blood everywhere and make a mess, go right ahead. So we're like, okay. It made everything pretty easy to get gory because we're like, oh, it's going to get covered up anyway.
Now, what was it like to shoot it in that space?
I think the space being that, we were shooting the whole film there and that it was under construction and half the time we wouldn't have the lights on. It made it really creepy because basements on their own are like have their own creepy little thing, but having it under construction and like having it be messy was it, kind of added to the feel of having, moved into this house and then dealing with all of this.
Now, the film has some gore effects in it. What was it like working with the gore effects?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was super fun because we went through so much fake blood in this movie. It was great. Like, we got to get real messy and even doing like some of the costume effects, it was all really cool, and it also added to the learning experience on how to make things like better and more realistic, and keeping stuff in mind for our future projects so that we can make it better, but also when we get things right, we're like, yes, this worked, let's keep it like this.
Now, with being the star and producer of the film, you, along with the Bob and Laurel Mendel, also really came up with a really good design of the villain in the box. What influenced the three of you to come up with that look?
So we wanted something that was really creepy and disturbing looking, but also kind of dances on the line of realistic and like paranormal. Like, we wanted something for people to get freaked out by, but not look at and be like, oh, that's so fake. You know what I mean?
Now, you also handled the film's makeup as well.
Yep.
What was the makeup process like?
So, I actually didn't do a ton of the makeup. It was mostly, a lot of the design came from before we even started filming because we had ideas of how we wanted things to look. And luckily we had Bob and Lauren on our team where they could really help it come to life because, they've worked in haunts before and they know how to do this type of makeup and make it look really creepy and gross, but also not like super costumey. Like, they did such a good job, helping us create our vision and, making everything come to life.
What was the most challenging scene that you filmed on the box?
I would probably say when I had to smash Bob's head in with a sledgehammer. It was, it was such close quarters, and to make that scene come to life, I had to completely annihilate a sponge that was soaked in fake blood that was about 3 inches from Bob's head. And I had a little bit of a panic attack because I was like, what if I hit him with this sledgehammer? Because it was a real sledgehammer. What if I hit him with it? Like, I was freaking out because I just didn't want to actually hit him in the face. So it was a little difficult for me to, like, get my composure real quick and actually, like, do it.
What was your favorite scene out of the whole film?
My favorite scene was probably that scene, actually, where I was just smashing his face in. I thought it was shot really cool. The way it was edited looks awesome. And once I got over being super nervous about smashing him in the head, it was really fun. Because I just got to hit a sponge and blood went everywhere, and it was pretty cool. And seeing it in the film was like, all right, that was worth me being super anxious about, because it came out really sick.
Now, between this film and One Last Kill, which was the most challenging to shoot and the most challenging to act?
So I would say One Last Kill was a little more challenging to shoot, only because we shot most of it in the summer. So we're in the woods. It's really hot. It was long days. So it took a lot out of us. But to act, I would say The Box, only because, like I said, I'm not super emotional, and I had to be incredibly emotional in The Box. So it was a lot more out of me in that sense. But The Box was a little bit easier to shoot because we were in one location for the most part.
Will there be any more screenings of The Box, or is that it?
As far as screenings, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it would be cool if we did. I mean, The Box got a really good response at Dead of Autumn, and I feel like more people should definitely see it because we put a lot of work into it, and I think it's pretty cool. So,
how can people purchase One Last Kill in The Box?
So you can go right to our website at itcamefromthe508.com, and there is a link to buy the digital media, and I believe you can also purchase physical copies through the website as well. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I did. There is, because I've already did one anyway for Strawberry Lane.
Oh yes, Strawberry Lane is also on our website.
Do you have any upcoming projects that you're involved in?
Well, right now, It Came From the 508, we're trying to get some things together because, with everyone loving The Box and One Last Kill, we want to keep, putting good content out. And we're just trying to figure those type of things out. And especially because it's the beginning of the year, we're trying to figure out what cons we're going to go to, what we're going to vend at, and, trying to get together things to show our films at.
Well, we do have a certain con in Rhode Island in June that I think you guys might be interested in.
Oh, yeah?
TerraCon.
Oh, yeah, it is in Providence this year,
yes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And
that'll be really awesome. I'm pretty sure James had mentioned, us trying to get involved in TerraCon in some way or another, and that would be really cool.
Yeah, just saying, give you an idea.
Oh, yeah, for
There's
sure.
an actual convention finally in Rhode Island.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's like they do this every 3 years. Yeah, so we're getting way off topic. Now, where can they find you on social media?
So, you can find me on Instagram at White Witch with 2 V's instead of W's. And you can find It Came From the 508 at It Came From the 508 on Instagram and It Came From the 508 Productions on Facebook.
Well, Erica, I want to thank you for coming on to my program.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Anytime, and have a good day.
You too.
For the latest news and information on Anthony T's Horror Show, you can check out Anthony T's Horror Show on the social media platforms at Anthony T's Horror Show on Facebook, Instagram, and the Slasher app, at Anthony T's Horror on Twitter. Anthony T's Horror Show can be found on YouTube as well at youtube.com/Anthony Thurber. You can find Doc Discussions on the web at www.docdiscussions.com, and you can find Anthony T's Horror Show on the web at anthonytshorrorshow.blogspot.com. The following commentary contains views that are not representative of the Dark Discussions Network, meaning they're the views of mine and mine only. Welcome back. I want to thank Erica Looker for coming on to my podcast. You can check out her films One Last Kill in the Box as they're available on It Came From the 508 Productions official website. Now, at the end of production, Terracon announced another guest. They announced that Chris Owen will be joining the convention. He's been in such films as The Mist and American Pie and The Last Sharknado. Will somebody tell me why Chris Owen is a guest? Because I cannot get this through my head that Altered Reality Entertainment would do this. Unless if they're trying to get the Comic-Con audience. As Chris Owen is not a guest, that comes to mind when I'm thinking horror conventions. In fact, he's only been in 2 horror films. The Mist and The Last Sharknado. None of those films are iconic horror films. I love The Mist, don't get me wrong, but The Last Sharknado does not count as an iconic horror film or franchise. I'm sorry. It's not like, oh, he was in a Halloween film. Oh, he was in a Nightmare on Elm Street film or a Friday the 13th film. He was in The Mist and The Last Sharknado. That is his horror resume. What is this? Terracon or Rhode Island Comic-Con all over again? Seriously. I feel like he's being brought in because he was in American Pie, which is a comedy, not a horror film. Seriously, Altered Reality Entertainment. What's the criteria for your guests? Do they have to be in some popular comic book film or popular comedy to be considered for Terracon? Because I really don't get this guest announcement one bit. It's not a person I would spend money at a horror convention. And that's right, Terracon is supposed to be a horror convention, not a Comic-Con. You guys really have to come up with some really better guests than what's been announced so far, because so far this guest list is horrible. There is no headliner. There is no major theme to your convention. You're trying to get as many people in the doors as possible. You're trying to get people out of state to come to this convention. If I was someone in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, I would not be impressed with this guest list at all. It's not something that I would travel all the way to Rhode Island for. You guys really need to bring some good guests, because this convention is going to fail if it continues to have the level of guests that you guys are putting out and announcing, because there's no identity to this convention. It's just a convention with random stars, no major theme, no person that you can say is a headliner. I'm done talking about Terracon this episode. Quite frankly, I've gone way too long on this, but I am very passionate about having a horror convention that runs yearly in Rhode Island. I'm sorry if I'm so passionate, but Rhode Island needs a yearly horror convention. And Altered Reality Entertainment right now seems like they don't care. And that's what frightens me about this convention coming up. The lack of an identity and a lack of a headliner or two. If there's no headliner, if there's no themes, the convention will fail. And I don't want to see that happen. quite frankly. I've gone on way too long this episode to the point where I cannot go into my Saw rant that I have. Seriously. I did tease in the beginning that I was going to talk about Spiral from the Book of Saw, but I just want to end this episode because TerrorCon has really taken over this episode and not for the good. So next episode, I will definitely talk about Spiral from the Book of Saw. I truly apologize for teasing it in the open and not talking about this, but TerrorCon is taking over this podcast. And now might be a good time to end this podcast for this episode. I want to thank you for listening. Have a good day and support indie horror.